Amigos, ¿cómo están? Qué maravilla tenerlos el día de hoy por acá. Estoy muy contento de tenerlos por acá. Hasta puse música festiva, ¿eh? Puse música divertida el día de hoy. Espero que se escuche fuerte y claro. Creo que estoy acá un poco alto yo. Vamos a ver que esté todo bien, que me vean bien por acá. Sí, ya estamos al aire, amigos. Gracias por estar por acá. Hoy es el aniversario de Pregúntale a Leo. Es nuestro primer año. Estamos cumpliendo un año de estas transmisiones que, como dije ayer, nos sacaron de la miseria de estar en casa. o como dijeron ayer también, fueron la inspiración para muchos en este año. Así que estoy súper contento de estar por acá. Tenemos un programa muy especial porque tenemos un invitado de lujo, nuestro querido Walker, que ahorita va a venir por acá. Y este programa, a diferencia de todos los otros programas de Pregúntale a Leo, va a ser en inglés. Vamos a estar traduciendo las preguntas en tiempo real. Si tienen preguntas acerca de Make Noise, tienen preguntas acerca de la música en general, va a estar bastante interesante. Y sin más, quiero darle la bienvenida a nuestro invitado del día de hoy, nuestro querido Walker Farrell. Walker, welcome to the channel. It's such a pleasure to have you here in Pregúntale a Walker, that may translate to Ask Walker.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
I think I didn't tell you, dear Walker, that today is our first anniversary in this Pregúntale a Leo channel. So
congratulations! Happy anniversary!
So you're like the star, the candle of the cake.
Yeah, tried to blow me out.
Like super real. Like, how's everything on your side, Walker? It's such a pleasure to have you here, and I'm pretty excited that you being part of the show. Pretty happy also to be part of the official Make Noise channel. In the last collaboration, I did enjoy it, and I think people also enjoy it. And you
absolutely
you kickstart my synthesizer channel on English as well. So I'm super excited as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we loved the video. We for anyone watching who didn't see the video, they should make sure and check it out. The Make Noise through light and color. Is that how the title went? Just such a lovely exploration of philosophical ideas and the connections between sound and light and color. And we have here at Make Noise every week we have an all crew meeting on Wednesdays, and we've started doing deep dives where people from each what we call zone, each zone of the company will kind of do a deep dive and talk about something that they've been up to share with the rest of the folks at the company who work here. And we inaugurated that by doing a projector viewing of your video, and everybody loved it. It's fantastic to watch. So
thank you so much.
Definitely glad to have you involved.
I was super fun. It's such an honor to be part of this series. Like, I've been following the series, and I've following the channel for the last 3 years or so. Like, you have been constantly uploading pretty amazing videos, and we need to talk more about that because now I think you're in the position of a YouTube creator, and that's it's a weird zone, and I think you have been nailed it so good. I think the Make Noise videos are like pretty close to kind of a historic, but a little bit goofy as well, but a little bit like warm. And that's something pretty amazing for all the people that are not like gearheads or super geek on modular synthesizer. They can enter through other like other doors, like the insect. I really love that cicada one. And we need to talk more about that in a minute. But also, like, I want to share with the audience that I've been working with the Make Noise guys for the last 5 years or so with the amazing release of the O Coast. I did the manual translation in Spanish, and since then I think we have been like getting back and forth. and we did some pin for the anniversary, and I was invited with also to be part of the show, amazing 10-year anniversary, and ended up like seeing the amazing performance of Walker on the modular synthesizer with the modular on the spot Asheville. Do you remember that Sunday after the 10-year anniversary? You host the I think I'm losing Walker here.
Anniversary event for Make Noise a few years back, and you did a great set in a basement down the road. That was a lot of fun, and we had also we have a banner that you made for us for the Superbooth show a couple of years ago, based on some of the stereo imagery and somebody sitting in a park listening to that one was made into a t-shirt too. So we have this banner that you made that's hanging up above the production floor, and everybody gets to see it, just kind of like a fun graphics every day. I think it was maybe more than one banner you made for us. I don't really remember the chronology at this point. Some posters too.
Yeah, like we have been working back and forth, and it's such an honor to be part of the brands that you love. I'm super in love with the Make Noise stuff. I think we talked before about this, but I was like not pretty sure to get into modular or into Eurorack, and it was like Make Noise kind of a style of blending different ages and different like kind of like paradigma of synthesizer, like the West Coast and the East Coast. And for me, like all the Make Noise models have like this touch of history and like a touch of like kind of a self-explanatory or kind of a book kind of model. I think that's my definition of the OCOS is like a book. You read it and you learn many stuff only by having like that product, and that's amazing, and it's pretty amazing to be part of this. Let people saying that they saying hi to you. They're like saying that happy anniversary to the channel. And Isaac is like today he has like an English class, so he's following up with us.
Oh, so this is homework for somebody.
Today everybody has this homework to look at the Síntesis con Leo in Inglés. So let me ask a few questions that I have on my bag of questions. And one of these questions is like, you have been doing an amazing job of explaining and being the face of Make Noise through the YouTube channel. And I think it's such a responsibility, because the Make Noise brand is like, it's huge in terms of the in the modular realm, on the modular world. And I think you totally nailed with another kind of attitude towards the modular synthesizer. That was something that you come along the way. Like, did you find it like how do you feel it, like this change from the regular demo, like the over the top only talking about the synths, to all these background that I know that you have like this musical background, and I think many of these of the people know that you're into music, and let's in a couple of minutes let's talk more about that. But how did you turn from this like the regular demo to this more philosophical or more like warmer way to approach to synthesizers? How did you feel that this turned out in the last couple of months?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons or ways that we had this evolution from for a long time, as you mentioned, it was what I was doing for the channel was just a close-up of a synthesizer with just hands manipulating controls and a voiceover describing what was happening. And I had opportunities. I mean, I took opportunities, some to put in jokes or history lessons or whatever, but there's not that much that you can really do when you're still looking at a blank slate. I mean, the synthesizer's blinking and doing things in time with the music, but hand gestures can only get you so far in terms of being visually interesting when you're trying to explain history or something like that. So, but I think that when we started putting videos on the channel, that was what any synthesizer video was at the time, was sort of what you were getting, what you were looking for in a video about a modular synth especially is here's the module, here's what each control is, here's what each control does, here's what it sounds like when you patch this type of voltage into it. You know, it was like this very dry, categorical kind of way to go through things. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that even before I started making videos, I was inspired by at least one person who was kind of taking that paradigm and breaking it and breaking out of it a little bit and making it inspirational. And that was James Sigler, mm-hmm. who back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when I was first really getting hot into learning modular synthesizers, watching his videos was very inspirational to me, not only as a musician, but as somebody who was interested in the idea of explaining and talking about these kind of strange concepts to other people. So I have to say that I have to admit that when I started making videos, I was essentially hoping to do something that was sort of comparable to what James was doing. Mm-hmm. And he had made videos for Make Noise before I was involved with Make Noise, but was no longer doing so when I came on because he didn't really have time to do so anymore with a new job that he'd gotten. So so when I started making videos for Make Noise, it was not a primary part of my job. I was actually the production manager at the company for several years and was just trying to fit in video content wherever I could. We definitely aimed to get one out every week, and usually was able to hit that goal, but at various times, it couldn't be a super high priority for a lot of the time for the first few years. But I was continually kind of refining the process, getting better at making it look and sound good while getting a process down to where I could really just crank them out fast, because we had to keep it coming even while I was also running the production line, and we were, our sales were going up and everything as well. And then a few years ago,
like a triple job.
Sorry.
It's like a triple.
Yeah, well, the way it works here is we're a small enough company, and this is still kind of true now, that everybody does kind of a whole bunch of jobs. Mm-hmm. But they've gradually been, various people's jobs have been split in half over the years. When I was hired, it was a splitting in half of Tony's job. Then we split my job in half, probably 2016 or so, 2016 or 2017. I don't really remember now. And we hired on John, who is the production manager now. And at that point, I was able to switch my focus to being instrument specialist, which is videos, manuals, training production crew, and doing trade shows and events and stuff like that. So it was all about basically explaining the instruments to people from that point forth. And however, this is a really long-winded way to answer your question. It was a couple of years ago that we were starting to really look more at how to expand the reach of our channels, and we had also brought Pete Spear on at that point, who had kind of taken over doing the Instagram channel, and we were having a meeting we would have lunch meetings for media every couple months, and Tony said, basically, it's time to have face on the camera, because that's the way, like, YouTube basically buries anything that doesn't have somebody talking to a camera.
Yep.
So I was a little skeptical of it when he first said that. Of course, I was game to try, but I was always kind of feeling like one thing that I liked about the top-down synth video was that it wasn't putting the focus on my personality; it was putting the focus on the instrument, and that was something that I kind of wanted to maintain. I wanted to be like a host to bring you, the viewer, the instruments and the concepts, and not make it like all about me, really. However, as I've continued doing more in this new paradigm and building up a set to sit in and just being more comfortable in front of the camera and talking to the camera, I think that I've felt like I could get my own personality into it in a more organic way that's still fitting in with the overall aesthetic and philosophy of Make Noise that Tony has created. And by this time, I'm already, 6-7 years deep into working for and with Tony. So I think I have a pretty solid understanding of what he's trying to do, and I feel confident that I can portray that in a way that's creative, and it is kind of personal to me as well at this point. But that's getting the word of what we're trying to do out to people. And additionally, I want to add that more recently, we are definitely starting to become more explicitly conscious about having other hosts on the channel too, and other people's voices and other faces. And you'll begin seeing other people who work in our shop will be making appearances in videos and things. So just like quite expanding the number of different voices and faces that you'll get to hear from on the channel. And I guess I'll be kind of like the overall host while there's a bunch of other stuff going on too. And a part of that was inviting you, Leo, to do a video for us, because we wanted to, pick a few of our favorite folks to do videos on our channel.
And that's amazing. Let's recap a little bit with many stuff that you said. It's pretty interesting. I think James Higler was like also an inspiration for me. I think the kind of this kind of approach, more fun and more dedicated, of maybe doing like some kind of tune or some like more specific to music. I think James on the first few videos that I remember he was like pretty focused onto music, onto more explicit on that kind of topics, and then like shift a little bit more into the also like kind of the small details of modular without being like like tedious or this and this or too manual, like it's not like a video manual. And the other thing that I think that
James
go ahead.
One thing that James really was very good at was talking about like technical and sometimes obscure things in a way that he was using them for music, but it was like there was just a sense of exploration and seeing where it took you that wasn't really tied to like what the result was going to be. It was like the concept itself was something that was worth exploring, and it helped that he was always able to get fantastic sounds out of it too. He knew what he was doing, so he could make it. I just got hypnotized by his videos a lot of the time.
Yeah, like it's pretty weird. I think you can relate to this, but sometimes when you're explaining a topic, you ended up with an awful noise, like the worst patch ever, but it's pretty explanatory to the topic you're into it. Like, I don't know, like AM for instance, or some kind of FM. And the actual patch is like really bad, but you have to explain it in a way. And I sometimes having to me like I need to like kind of switch like to another part of the video and get back to a like more polished patch. Because sometimes like you need to explain the small details, and as you were saying with James, James has this ability of explain something pretty hard and ended up with a pretty musically interesting stuff going on, and that's amazing. Like for me, like I'm trying to get better into doing videos, and for me it's like such a nice like like it's pretty hard to do. I think like many times as you approach to a synthesizer, and this is the first time you're into or the first time you're like mixing, like now I've seen the newest YouTube videos, and you're mixing the make noise stuff with other gear from all ages, and sometimes it's hard to get a nice result at the first time. You know, you need to explore more, but then you mentioned something pretty interesting also, that YouTube relies as a media in the content, and as a brand, as Make Noise is a brand, they need to pull out content every single week in order to get relevant to the algorithm and all this shady stuff that nobody really knows. And so there's
right.
So now there's a pressure, so you need to deliver every single week. And that gets in the way also of being creative and being informative, but also with the pressure of being there every single week. How do you manage like to be there every single week as a creator? It's like, it's weird, right?
I wish I knew the answer to that one. I don't know. I have like I tend to keep just a short list of videos that I want to make, but you never know what's actually going to fit in with whatever is working at this moment. I've been trying to sort of get more ambitious with what kind of locations I shoot and do stuff that's not just sitting in front of a synth and talking about it. And what I've been doing now is just like collecting footage and then seeing if I can fit it together somehow. Mm-hmm. But I haven't fully nailed down that process yet, honestly. I had a pretty solid process when I was just talking to a synth all the time, but shaking it up is a fun challenge. So right now what I usually do is I'll kind of wait for something to inspire me to think that I can actually talk about some topic for a few minutes and keep it interesting, which I never know what that's going to be. I'm trying to even think about I'm so focused on what I'm trying to do next that I've forgotten what I did last. So let's see, what was our recent? I don't even know what some latest. I'm suddenly blanking on like all the videos that I put out recently.
Tomorrow is gonna be I forgot the topic. I was looking at before.
Okay, well tomorrow I can tell you that tomorrow's is going to be about the mass bouncing ball patch, and actually this will be a video that Pete made. So we also are spreading out across channels some too. So Pete made this video for YouTube, and it's going to be a fun one because he also has got some interview footage with Tony in it, which is also something that I will be adding into mine soon as well. But I guess the main thing is can we make it be interesting for whatever amount of time it's supposed to fill? What's the hook? I don't know. I mean, sometimes something seems really obvious. Like I had one last year where it was about doing demodulation signals with the mod mix and making sort of radio sounds. Mm-hmm. And since it was based on a patch from all the way back in the mod, which was the first module that Tony made way back in 2008. So I jacked a bunch of footage from his original video that he made back then, cut it into my video, did some stuff where I did a funny thing with a radio, and then recorded the entirety of like the first half of the video and then played it back through the demodulator for the second half so that it sounded like all radio voiced. That's an example of just like, I thought of some very simple idea and then figured out how to sort of, I don't know, make it something that you could watch for 10 or 12 minutes and be entertained the whole time by. Hopefully that people were.
but it is, and the fun part or the valuable part is like that we are competing with the Olympics, or we're competing with like at the end it's like there's like this term, like it's a layback media. So the YouTube videos, it's not like TikTok or other kind of media that people can consume it like, okay, one and another, like a popcorn kind of media. This is like a more laid back media. So you ended up like being in front of this media like for 10, 12 minutes, enjoying it. And so I think that's something pretty valuable. And the thing that I'm pointing towards to it, like feels the love for the music, for the history, and not only like, okay, let me push you my newest product in your face for the next 5 minutes, and that's something that I really want to congratulate you, because totally feels like it's a
thanks.
It's the feeling of a community. It's the feeling of a real love about the things that you're doing, and not like, oh, let's push this new update back and forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like insult or talk down about any other channels at all. I mean, there's a lot of people who I do find inspirational, but there are definitely a lot of synthesizer and other, I guess, consumer product content out there where it is basically like a sales pitch, and when I watch it, I don't like it at all. I want to feel like the person who's presenting something to me is actually inspired by it, and that they're telling me something from their soul, so to speak. And if I see a synth demo that's just a list of features, I tune out. I don't even watch it. I might, if I need to find something out later, I might like find cross-reference or something like that. I'd rather just look at a manual though, or something like that. Like the idea of sort of being creative and finding ways to be creative it's more interesting to me and to us than trying to get people to buy the new thing. Now that said, we want people to buy the new thing. So
this is that's a funny challenge, I guess. Like you ended up like with a real relationship, and this is something that you might be familiar with. That the first time I think we met was actually at the NAMM show, I guess, and you have been
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
You have been showcasing the modular stuff for the last 7 years of your life, and instantly when people think on the brand, you ended up thinking on the faces you see on the channel. You see it, so at the end there's like this familiar thing going on, or familiar, I think it's the right word. Like you get familiar with the device, but as well you get familiar with the ideas of the creator or the artists around the products. That's the reason that totally makes sense to have the Strega right now. If you have been following the Make Noise Live, you have been hearing about like Alessandro Cortini being part of the creative I don't know, like the creative constellation around the brand, and feels like familiar for a new product coming from that kind of relationship. But as well, that's something that happens with you as part of the face of the channel. You see, like, okay, the how those Walker would use this kind of synthesizer, how those Walker approach this. It's also that feels familiar for people, and now you're creating this relationship that is going to be further in time, and there's like these sometimes I read the comments about the like guys commenting on your videos and saying like you're kind of I forgot the name of this character, like used to be on the ABC or BBC Monday with the kids explaining different stuff. I think Tom Hanks did a movie about him. What was this like? This guy that.
Are you talking about Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, yeah. I've read many times.
I don't think I saw that comment.
I saw like many times that people say like saying like Walker, it's Mr. Rogers, and Pete is the other guy. Like. So you know, like this kind of it's another approach, and it has been out there for many kind of other industries, and it's nice to have like people tinkering or wondering as the I don't know, like I think the one of the best communications or like I don't know how to translate this, but the scientific communicators I've been following was Carl Sagan. I have this idea of tinkering, of like not he was not into the science news, but into the tinkering about science, and ended up like being a real inspiration for me and for a whole a full generation. So I think that's I'm comparing you to that kind of feeling of
my coworker Devin, who you know, he did tell me that one of my videos reminded him of Carl Sagan, actually. So I took that as high praise for sure. I've told somebody that I kind of thought of the little set that I made to sit in as kind of being like Mr. Rogers' living room. I never heard a customer compare me to Mr. Rogers, though. I take that as a high compliment for sure. I think that one thing I wanted to mention is that it is important to make noise to be connected to musicians. That we're a company that's pretty much all musicians, and we're making instruments for musicians and with musicians like Alessandro. And it's something that I keep in mind all the time when I'm representing Make Noise is a little blurb that Kelly wrote for our website a few years back, and that's still been on there, that says we consider, and I'm probably misquoting it here slightly, but essentially it says we consider our instruments to be collaborations with musicians who will use them to expand what they think of as music, listen to the notes between the notes, and find the unfound sounds. And that's kind of like the core. That's very much a core of how I view what I'm trying to do and what Make Noise is trying to do and what we're doing together. And also, I thought you might like our new shirt, Leo. It's got some very colorful graphics on it that are based on some things, and it says "Sounds Unfound" at the bottom, which is taken straight from that blurb too.
From that blurb.
So like it's a collaboration with musicians, and we are musicians. We're working with musicians, and we're focusing on exploration, discovery, creativity. That's more important than the technical stuff. Although, you know, we're also interested in being technically awesome too. But the real core to it is the unfound sounds and collaborating with musicians.
And that this is amazing for a standing point of a brand, and like to find the unfound sounds. And there's like this nice question that we could be a little bit philosophical about it. But Adrian Max says, like, do you consider Make Noise as the sound of the future? And I think the future and the futurist and the make noise and the noise generation, the Italian noise generation, they do consider the making noise the sound of the future. You know, like Filippo Tommaso Marinetti, Pratella, all the futurists were pretty into like.
Yeah, but 100 years ago.
exactly, like exactly 100 years ago, but as a composer, because I know that you're also a musician, a composer. How do you feel? How do you relate to the actual fact of making noise as part of your composing, your process, your creative outcome?
You're asking how I relate to the fact of making noise. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Like
as part of the process.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that the thing about the word noise is it means so many different things. I mean, there's a technical meaning to it within a synthesizer that I like. I like broad spectrum sound that has the idea behind noise of something that I think Hank Shockley said that always resonated with me was that noise contains all frequencies, so it contains everything. Everything is held within noise as far as sound is concerned, and you could carve whatever you like out of it. And that I definitely find that that's a fun starting place. I mean, sometimes I like to start with like really simple stuff like sine waves and stuff like people are really into. But other times you get noise and carve out bits of it, throw it through filters or VCAs or what have you and carve it into shapes. And that makes a really good basis for whatever. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, of course. And then there's the other definition of noise, which is it's one of a few actually, but sound that's unwanted, I think, would be a definition of noise, right? Like unpleasant or sound that you want to get rid of. You want to not have any of it. It's the opposite of the signal, right? You got the signal and the noise, and I think as far as the idea, a lot of the idea of noise around making noise music is kind of playing on that. It's like, what does it really mean to purposefully try to do something that is unwanted? Like, the idea of making seeking out something that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
It's like there's like a danger there, I guess, in some way, or it's like it's a contradiction. It's like not a contradiction. It's like a paradox, I guess you could say. It's something that it doesn't quite make sense to the mind, so it can be fun to sort of run with and play with and see where it goes.
Yeah, and
then I guess there's probably also the idea that noise is like anything that's not periodic or predictable, because like you could consider most tonal music to fit within repetition, even if it's just only on the level of the waveform where it's making a consistent frequency. And noise would be something that's not creating the same frequency each time. So it's kind of I think that a lot of people hear noise in any music that's not that doesn't have a really transparent structure to it, especially symmetrical structure. If it's not in a 4/4 time or a simple time like that, or it's not separated into blocks of sections or repeating segments like motifs that repeat and things like that. That's one thing that people think of as noise as well. But like a lot of times that's what we're after too when making music, is finding something that doesn't follow the same path but is still somehow compelling as a whole, and that's another interesting challenge as well.
And how do you approach yourself as a composer? Did you first of all, I want to ask you, how did you start with the music? Was something in your house? And the second question was like, how do you approach with these? Did you use the noise aspect or these kind of these noisy sounds on your sounds as your own language, or you have been developing other kind of tools on your set of composer? How do you approach that? So those are the two questions.
So I guess with the first one, my history with music, I was hearing music from the beginning. My folks listened to a lot of different music, and so I heard a lot of music growing up, and I was interested in music from really early on. I started really wanting to play music and pick up instruments around the time I was like 10. I had actually taken piano lessons briefly when I was quite a bit younger, but I think I was just too young for it to really stick, and I didn't get very far. Mm-hmm. Then when I was about 10, I started playing the piano, and I picked up the guitar again as well about a year later, and was just very, very, very into playing those. But I was also starting to get with tinkery electronic stuff, whether it was like editing sound files in a computer program. We had like a Windows 3.1 computer. This is like the mid 90s. We had I could load sound files and change their speed, chop pieces out of them and collage them and things like that.
Do you remember the software you were using? Like
initially, I was using the wave players that came with the computer, but I think I got some freeware stuff too. I mean, I think Cool Edit, which may even still exist in a much more big package, but I think back then it was just a freeware program that was comparable to like Audacity now. I'd say like it probably wasn't as it didn't have as much going on as Audacity does. It didn't have like compressors and stuff like that, but it was kind of like that, like just a waveform view and then some junk you could do to it. And I just would spend a long time just sitting there playing with sounds that either we'd recorded in through the computer mic or whatever sounds were in whatever folders for whatever programs were on the computer. We just go and find all the wave files and mess with them. And I think it could even load. I remember that you could load. I don't know if that was the program you could do it, but I had a program. It was for sure freeware because I didn't have anything that was like purchased. but you could load like an executable file, like a Microsoft Word or something, as a wave file, and it would play all these. Like, I mean, I guess they sounded a lot like heavily modulated, ring modded type sounds and noise that was changing shape and stuff.
Like
and I got really into
the modem. Do you remember when you?
It was modem type sound.
Kind of
yes,
the modem, right?
We had that too. I mean, that was where I got these programs. Was on our 14 kilohertz dial-up modem connecting to AOL and such. But yeah, so I would take those and I'd copy and paste little bits of those noises and then try to make like collages and music out of them. And I also I had like freeware versions of there was one called I think Synth Edit or Synth, was it Synth Edit? I don't know. It was like, I mean, it was like an analog modeling type little windowed computer program that had you could pick, you know, sawtooth and square just like you would on most typical synths. I hadn't used a hardware synth at all at that time. And Rebirth, that was another one. Little emulations of the 303 and 808 and 909. Like, I think there was either a freeware version of that or I found a cracked version or something. I don't remember, but I had that on my computer too. And I remember I was thinking like, I want these machines, this 808 and this 909, but yeah, I never ended up getting them.
Did you own any of those jiggles now, like those 808s, those 303s? Do you have any of them on your arsenal?
The closest that I had was I've had a 606 and a 707. I don't have either of them anymore. I actually liked the 707 a lot, which I don't know that that's that popular of one in that pantheon. I don't know. By the time I was actually would have been having any kind of income that I could spend on something like that, the 808 and 909 were already way out of my price range, unfortunately.
they were so expensive so fast, right?
Yeah, it jumped up quick. Yeah, for sure. And the 303 I think could have maybe been more in the price range, but I wasn't as interested in it for whatever reason. I don't know. I never really had one of those either. I've used some of the Zox boxes and stuff like that, the 303 clones, and it's a weird little synth. I mean, it is very good at the acid bassline sound, but
it's a kind of a one-trick pony, you would say,
but not much else as far as Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it was supposed to be a one-trick pony. It wasn't meant to be like a big, powerful synthesizer, really. It was acid bass were a very happy accident.
Yeah, like to be also.
I lost track of whether I'm answering your question.
Yeah, like you were telling us the story behind you when did you enter to the model or synthesizers or the music in general. You were like recapitulating your musical history.
So, synthesizers specifically, I mean, it was mostly messing around with computers or tapes, like cassette tapes. I did like tape loops, not tape loops, what do you call them? Pause tapes. I don't know if is that a thing? Was that a thing where you were? It was like, you basically, you would do this to make like what a hip hop beat would be. You'd find like the break.
Okay.
You'd put your recording tape in the second deck and hit record. You'd hit play on the break, then pause the recording right as it ended, rewind it back to before the break started, hit play again, and unpause it when it started, and then pause it when it ended. And then you just do that over and over again, so your tape would have the break looped on it.
Ah, nice, like a backtrack.
The tape that you recorded to would be like a loop of whatever the break was that you made. Nice. And it was like a really poorly executed loop usually, because you had to time it just right, but the buttons were kind of mushy, you know, they weren't made for playing like that, you know what I mean? So it had this sort of like herky-jerky feel to it when you were when you made it. I don't know. That was the kind of thing that I was doing in middle school and high school. Those kind of just like messing around with what we had, which is a computer and tapes and playing regular instruments. And then it was around the time I finished high school that I first encountered a like really knobby synthesizer where I could actually grab the knobs and turn and manipulate the sound right then and there by hand. That was major step for me.
Do you remember which was the?
I know what it was because I bought it. It was it was the Korg MS-2000. I was a senior in high school and about to graduate, and I had also at this time I had worked in a coffee shop for a while, so I even had some money saved, and my folks, I was about to graduate from high school, and so they told me that as a graduation present, they'd split the cost of that thing with me. So, and they were all out. I got the floor model at Guitar Center or whatever it was that I encountered it. So I didn't get a box or anything with it. It was the floor model that people had been playing. But I was super into it. I mean, just I didn't know really what it was. It took years before I really learned exactly what I was doing. I mean, I pretty quickly figured out, you know, the cutoff knob does something on every sound, things like that. but I didn't have a vocab for what was going on. I just kind of poked around and learned intuitively what the different controls did without really developing like an intellectual understanding of it for a while. And I took that to college with me, and I played. I would just make crazy noises in my room, but I also played in kind of like a jam band when I was in college, and I tried to like just go as far out with the synthesizer solos as I possibly could and make everybody be like, what the hell is with this guy? And then I don't know, when after like in my 20s, I kind of was, I became like much more into synthesizers. I started wanting to get more of them, and I for a little while I kind of fell into like trying to find the best vintage synths and stuff like that, because I was mostly into knobby synths, and I think we were still kind of at the beginning of like the comeback of that at the time. Like most synths you got at that time were still didn't have that many knobs on them. I just wanted lots of knobs and controls, and so vintage stuff was more appealing to me. But it was also annoying because you usually had to buy it from eBay or something and have it shipped across the country, and you didn't know when or if it was gonna work right, and so I didn't really buy that many vintage synths. I don't know. I mean, it all depends on who you ask what a lot of vintage synths is.
Yeah.
It was fewer than 10 for me, and I traded them in and out and stuff, and then I found out at some point that modular, which everything I'd ever read acted like this, like modular was like ancient history. Nobody did it anymore. At some point I found out somehow that modular was still something that you could still do, that you could still get today. And I found out how to do that. A little, I was in a 5U modular for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I actually found out about Eurorack when I saw Robert A. Lowe in Wire magazine. There was a photo of him sitting with a Eurorack case next to him, and I was like, "What? That's a modular, but it's
tiny,
small." And and so then I don't know. I looked into. I don't remember how I didn't know what it was called. I just knew that it was a smaller modular. So I don't remember exactly how I figured out how to stumble upon, but within like a year of that, I had gotten rid of all my vintage synths that I'd ever had, all the pedals I had, all the 5U modular, and it was just I was just building a Eurorack system, which would have been 2010 or 2011 by that time when I switched to Eurorack.
Into the rabbit hole of Eurorack.
Yeah, and I was very unpicky for a while. Like I would go on the like modular forums or eBay or wherever trades were happening. They didn't really have Facebook groups doing this stuff back then the way they do now, but like anything somebody had for sale for cheap, I would buy, and then if I liked it, I'd keep it, and if I didn't, I'd trade it out. And I learned a lot that way, especially by Dopever modules. I probably rotated in and out like 50 or 60 different Dopever modules in the first year or two. Wow. Just getting them and just figuring out everything about them, just learning it from top to bottom, and I was just like really, really thirsty to understand how it all ticked and like get a complete understanding of it. I don't know. For some reason, it like I was saying with the Korg, I kind of just poked around and felt it out and figured it out based on what it felt like. But I guess once I had to connect it up with patch cables, it awakened this thirst for knowledge in me to just know everything. I needed to know everything. So, and that was what led me to becoming like, I don't know, expert enough to go knock down a modular synth company's door and ask for a job.
Like, hey guys, like, hey guys, I'm here. I know like these 60 models, and I have like these models of, and I think we need to share a little bit of insight of how big or how small it's like a modular company back in the you enter in 2013, I guess, or 2014, if I
2013, yeah, was when I first started punching the clock at Make Noise, yeah.
and even as we realize as a consumer that the companies are like these big companies, it's ended up to being like a couple of guys in around a table, and like there's like this sense of you can actually feed the whole Make Noise company with a couple of large pizzas. Do you know that? Did you know that
Yeah.
that saying, like this quote? I think it's a quote for the entrepreneurship, that your company doesn't have to be big enough, or need to be small enough to be fed with 2 large pizzas. That's the right amount of people in a company to be successful.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, so I could talk about the size of the company when I started. I was in a 6-month internship, and then I was hired. And when I was hired, I was one of 4 people who worked at the company, and that includes Tony and Kelly. So it was real small right then.
Yep.
It had taken a little bit of a dip because somebody quit, and then we started building up pretty quickly after that too. We hired a couple more production people following that fall in that thing. One of whom is now still with us. That's Devin. He was hired for production, and now he's the repair and rework and prototype building guru. Works next door to me. And then we've had a bunch of people come and go, and a bunch of people who have stuck around for a long time. So I think we have I don't keep the count in my head. It's 14 or 15 people who work in the building right now. And it's never really been bigger than that, but it's stayed right around there for most of the last several years, I would say.
And that's something that I really I love to talk more about, that, like kind of being a small company. And because like sometimes people say like, okay, these guys, and like they're pretty vocal as if you were like kind of a Samsung, like these big company, faceless companies with I don't know, like with thousands of products lined away and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, the Make Noise is still like a small company, and the things still doing with a lot of love, effort, sweat and tears. As you say, like it's still something pretty community based, and pretty, the soul is still in the machines, and you can tell even now that you can see that I read the last shipment of the Oak Coast. I read this huge number, I think like 8,000 or something like that. I said like, oh man, 8,000 units or more like that, and I feel like there's a lot of units out there of course, and maybe plenty more. And I always keep counting the serial numbers as soon as I can get to the serial numbers. I always love to see the serial numbers, because I know that you're still like smaller companies do what you love, and that's, for me, it's like real inspiring. And I've been telling the guys like lately on those in these questions, the Q&A that people came up with, like how big are those companies, how they're struggling, and there's still struggling in this community. There's still plenty of newcomers that they're like on their basement doing what they love, and that's something that we need to support more of that as musicians, and because I think that's the relationship back and forth of being part of a community, of a synthesizer community nowadays. I don't know, like if this like was too too around the question, but
yeah. Well, I think that that makes me think of a couple things to say about. I mean, we already mentioned that it's important to make noise that we're a company of mostly musicians, and we like to work with musicians, and I think it's also although we tried to make our instruments to the highest standard that we can, so when you get it, you're seeing something that you think is really cool and awesome, and you want to use it. But it's also it's something that's made by people, and it's made by a small team of people. So you have, I think, a more my camera does this thing every once in a while. So
no worries.
There we go. Yeah, I think there's because of it being a smaller team, and of everything being kind of made by human hands. I think we get a vision in the instruments that I don't think you could get out of a big company. It would be different. We wouldn't have the instruments would be different. I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it exactly, but you wouldn't be getting the same instruments out of a company that was like 1,000 or even 100 people. The small size of our team means that everybody has some involvement in what is making it into the musician's hands, and that's important.
That's
and also Kelly and Tony have been they're very purposeful about how and when the company grows. They're not interested in just growing for the sake of growth, which I appreciate for a number of different reasons.
Yeah. And I think that's a work of Steady Up, and I think also the history has been telling us that overgrown company like too fast on the 70s, all the ARPs, the ARPs, the MOOCs, the Korgs, the Rolands ended up like failing on the 80s for being overgrown a little bit of the size. So I think in this new renewal or this new golden era of synthesizers, I do love to see people or to see companies more like a steady growing, like 10 years, 15 years, and without without pushing too hard, because the history is there. The ARPs, the MOOCs, they ended up like losing their names for those purpose of getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I totally can think of that. Also, there's nice question, like a short question. This is Walker, what is your favorite drum machines of all time? Is the 707 your favorite drum machine of all times?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I haven't really used that many drum machines. I think the 707 is my favorite one that I've owned. I mean, I enjoyed playing with other people's Electron drum machines, like Machine Drum and Analog Rhythm and stuff like that. Those are pretty fun. Although I didn't use them for long enough to really get into the deepest programming with them. I wish I had a better answer. I don't know. I think I did like the 707, but I'm not. Please don't try to sell a 707 saying it's Walker's favorite drum machine of all time or something, because I don't even remember how to program it.
like this quote from the Arturia's webpage that ended up like this, like Jeff Mills forgot that he say. Do you remember that episode of a couple of months ago that Jeff Mills ended up forgetting that he was saying something nice about the product of Arturia, and he ended up forgetting about it. And
I think I caught some some echo of that somewhere in the media chamber. I didn't quite understand what all was going on there, but I remember that.
We're gonna do the same with this 707, the favorite Walker's machine of all time. So,
well, there was and I never messed with anything like this, but I think it was Ikue Mori, who she did a bunch of records where I don't know if she circuit bent the thing or just programmed it really weird, but she had all these drum machine programming that was really off the wall and did not sound like it came out of a 707 or whatever, but she was somehow driving it in this way that just made it sound totally nuts, and it fit with this other like I don't know, avant-garde instrumentalists who were playing along with it to fit. I think Garden was the name of the album I'm thinking of, Garden by Ikue Mori. I think that it was a 707 she was abusing on that album.
I haven't heard.
So if that is, then okay, I'll go ahead and say that that's my favorite drum machine. Drum machines have never been something that I really indulged in a ton. I've been really bad at breaking them out of their habits.
The regular habits. Yeah, like I feel the same. I think I'm not that into drum machine as on synthesizers. There's another nice question about like any genre in general, but do you like the electro kind of music, like Double Effect, like Jensen Interceptor? Is there any specific music that you're listening right now that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'm really, let's see here. One that on the sort of electronic beat-based music, I've been really into the latest Ski Mask release.
Okay.
Whose name I am blanking on, but it's kind of like maybe dub techno slash I don't know, just general. I don't know that it fits into exactly a genre descriptor, but what's it called? It is called Pool. Pool is the name of the Ski Mask album. It's really long, and I don't know, it's kind of like dub techno or something, but it's just like really well executed.
Nice.
The grooves are just like absolutely perfectly placed, and it puts me in a mood. I also I really enjoyed the collaboration between Floating Points and Pharoah Sanders earlier this year, which was with London Symphony Orchestra as well, I think. So it's kind of like some modular drone or like simple sequence stuff with saxophone playing on it, which, to be honest, I kind of expected not to really like it that much. I've enjoyed both those artists in the past, but I wasn't really sure that their collaboration was going to mesh, but it turned out to really, really hit for me. Yeah, those are a couple favorites. Oh, I also like, this is in more of like a pop realm, but Shanique Marie on the Equinox label.
Nice.
New album called Gigi's House. It's kind of like, it's kind of like really pretty simple, like dance hall rhythms with some pretty simple like singing and chanting over it, but I don't know, it's just quality. It's a jam I can listen to while I'm in the car.
I'm gonna share that last one on the channel so people can take a look around. The Bandcamp is already here. There's this another question that said like, Walker, did you consider is any missing piece on the Make Noise product line? Do you think there's like something that you say, okay, let's make this new thing without any, I'm sure
that's tough to say. That's the kind of thing that I tell Tony. I'm like, hey, why don't we have such and such? I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff that we don't make and maybe won't make that are smaller utility things like sequential switches and basic sample and hold and these kind of like bread and butter utilities that for me, Doper made a ton of, and I like to keep those kind of peppered around in my system. Because usually, like, we're gonna make stuff that's more a big something bigger, you know, something that's positioned to really I don't know, do something big. I don't know how else to put it. So we're less likely to
more spectacular.
Really have the space to do something like just a simple switch or sample and hold or something like that. So I like to have those around for particular ideas that I have, just because I mean, a lot of times you can patch stuff like that up with make noise stuff or whatever you've got, but it can be nice to just have things like that you can just jump into and grab. We've certainly got stuff that we want to do in the future that we haven't done yet, but I can't really speculate on that kind of thing in public, unfortunately.
Let's keep that on private. But I do think that you're totally right. I think that actually the mod mix or the moddy mod actually were like kind of a utilitarian kind of utilitarian model with a twist. Also, like my favorite model, I think you already know that the QMMG is my favorite model. I think of it as a utilitarian model as well. It's not a fancy, spectacular model, but do one thing pretty well, like better than any other one. So that's something pretty fun. There's a question about Irving Vargas says, which model would you recommend for newbies? What's a couple of starting points for the guys that are gonna start their modular journey? What's the best take?
I think the most important thing to any system is the modulation and the and stuff like that. It's more important than, well, not more important than sound. I mean, sound generation is clearly very important, but there's a universality to modulation modules that is a reason that I recommend them to just about everybody. You know, you may or may not love the sound of the DPO or the morphogene or the herb verb, what have you. Like those are things that are personal to what you want to do. But no matter what module you have, no matter what sound you're going for, you can find use in something like maths or wogglebug that are going to generate control voltages for you, because the shapes that you're using to modulate those sound makers are where you're really going to find your voice. And the thing is that they are very malleable and translatable to whatever CV input it is that you're sending it to. As well as with maths, I think it's extremely, it's a really helpful module for just kind of, if you're new to patching, a lot of the concepts of patching are like heavily embodied in maths, and you can learn a ton from it. So, I would recommend maths, and that's probably a cliche across the synth world to say you need a maths. But when I'm patching on a system that doesn't have one, I always feel a little naked or something. I'm like, oh, where's my maths? I'm just used to having it there for whatever I need it for, because it can do so many different things, and whatever it is that I'm happening to need to go for, I can count on it.
And I don't know if you can relate to this, but you can actually use different kind of, or even you have already in your setup many sound sources. Maybe even your phone is a sound source, like pretty relatable right now, pretty reliable, and you can play a tune there, but you don't have many modulations out there or many modulations around. Even usually the all the synthesizers from the last couple of decades doesn't have like a modulation input. They do have like filter input or whatever, but they don't have like a modulation input, so modulation CV. So even with even if you already have like the microcore, or if you already have like the pocket operators or plenty of other stuff like that's pretty fun to use and pretty portable, even with those, you already have like the oscillator. You only need like modulation. So that's I think the best way to start.
Yeah, and the thing is too that I think that it can never be overstated how important a part of the sound the modulation is. Mm-hmm. Like your sound generator will come alive when you modulate it, and the way that you're handling modulation on it, whether it's modulation to its inputs or how you're gating it further down the line with your VCA or filter or whatever. The shapes that you're using to modulate it are where the music is.
Yep. Yeah, it's at the end it's the DNA of your sound. But this is a nice question. Maybe to end it up, this is like it says, Walker, do you think it's possible to discover new synthesis methods in this 2021?
Is it possible to discover new synthesis methods?
Yep.
Never say never. I don't know. It's I mean, I think that probably a lot of what's possible to be done has been discovered, so to speak. And I think that as far as the methods of synthesis and their technicalities go, in the end, you're still working with the same stuff. It's the frequencies and amplitudes, and whether you're making it by filtering one thing or by mixing sounds in another thing, you're getting. I'm not saying they all sound the same or anything like that, but like there's a certain diminishing returns with coming up with entirely new methods of synthesis. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be something else that somebody discovers that's going to be, whoa, that always happens eventually. I don't know to what extent you can really chase it. I mean, I think you can, what you want to do is find ways to interact with and play an instrument that are new to you. Yep. Or that's what I want to do. I want to find ways to interact with and play an instrument that are new to me and that inspire me to create with it. Yeah, we are always working on new instruments and new modules and seeing where we can go with what's available. People like Tony and Tom Erb and others who we work with they're very good at making things better than we thought they could possibly be. I mean, when we're developing something with whether it's just an analog thing that Tony's making on his breadboard, or whether it's the digital thing that Tom sends over code for, and every time when we fire it up, I'm always excited for it, but almost every time my first few moments with the new prototypes are just, whoa, yeah. This is amazing. They constantly exceed themselves and blow me away again. So I believe that they'll continue to do so.
And one thing that you mentioned in an interview that I saw a couple of days ago from you, that's like, even I didn't realize that how this you mentioned this, but I didn't realize that the Strega was actually like an echo synthesizer, and for me it was like that's a new kind of synthesis. Like even though it's maybe it's straightforward for everybody. Like say like when the something loops, makes an echo and then makes a tone, whatever, and a feedback, whatever. But even on those small details are, I think, the next, it's going to be the next approach of new synthesis methods, like renaming or reshaping the ways of how do we approach to naming stuff. And that's amazing. I heard like the echo synthesizer and totally blew my mind.
That's interesting because, you know, now that you mentioned that, I'm thinking like that's something that wouldn't have arrived as a module. Like it's a tied together voice that is several parts all together in a way that we wouldn't have done a module like that. You know, the modules are going to be more focused, and the idea is going to be that you reconfigure them. The Strega, you're mentioning this now as an echo synthesizer, it's kind of the opposite. It's a bunch of stuff that's fused together in a way that you can't break apart the way you could with modules. And but I think you're onto that. It's fused together in a way that is not the same that other like hardwired synths are fused together. It's like completely different from the Zero Coast, for example, which is that stuff's all fused together in a certain way too, but like in a much more familiar sort of way. So that's interesting. The Strega, because it's an instrument that is not a module and instead is a bunch of circuits that have been mashed together in this very specific way, and it's very specific to what Alessandro wanted to hear. So, you know, that's got so much to do with it. Is exactly how he wanted it to sound and feel. That's where a lot of its identity came from. And yeah, it's new in a way that's not like, oh, it's not like some mind-blowing new tech or something like that. It's more like the way that it's conceptualized and mashed is different from what we've done before. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the end, the one thing that really inspires people is like playing the stuff. You know, like even when that's one of the paramounts of the Eurorack models. You know, or the Eurorack systems, that you ended up with your personal instrument, one of a kind. Maybe every single one, we have a Mats, and many of us we have an Nerverven, and you know, like, but at the end you ended up playing as a whole, as a one thing that you relate, and that it's relatable to you, and you ended up like taking this approach as a full instrument. And that's for me, that's my goal every single time with my Eurorack synthesizer. Like, ended up with an instrument and not a series of or a bunch of models in a box. I totally hate that idea, but that's why I always like keeping up, like saying, okay, this is my synthesizer, and I didn't shift too much around because I really want to have my instrument, not only a Eurorack modular.
I think that's very that fits a lot with what I was kind of thinking in terms of how you're relating to and playing the instrument is as important as the technology behind it or whatever it is, because that's also something that Tony is very good at. I mean, everything is thought of as a piece in a system. You know, even though the modules are individual and they can be moved around wherever, he gives a lot of thought to how it's going to play in a case as a full instrument, and the way that things are laid out is in not just in the modules, but in the Strega and Zero Control and stuff too. They're there for your hands to be able to access the most important parts the most easily, and for things to flow in a particular way and very easily. And of course, you can break out of that and patch them however you want, but there's a certain ease to the most like important dramatic stuff that is baked into them in the way that you're going to reach into it. And that's something that I definitely notice, like a difference between, say, a shared system and just a box of modules, as you put it, like which if you don't have it thought out what the flow of your system is, then it can be harder to get into a groove with it, you know.
This is a nice question, maybe to round it up this nice conversation. Walker, it says like Martin Rotaviera says, "Hi Walker, sometimes it seems to me that Eurorack is on a stage of stagnation. Then from time to time a new model appears and my hope is renewed. What's your impression of the Eurorack status in this 2021? How do you feel with the Eurorack now that you are into the boxes that I love? I love the desktop units.
Well, I mean, on the level of
maybe on the personal level
of make noise making modules, I mean, we're gonna keep doing that for sure. It's been a little while since we released a new module because the last things we put out were the Zero Control and Strega, but modules are still a big part of what we do. As far as Eurorack stagnating, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, there's so many modules available. I mean, it's insane. You couldn't, if nobody ever made a module again, if nobody ever released a new module again, starting right now, I mean, there'd be enough modules for you to spend years with each one for the rest of your life, no matter how young you are. I mean, I don't really, it's a thing where I don't like to think about like it needs to always be growing in order to be, I'm not sure. I mean, it's hard for me to really know how to think about that, because what I know that we want to do is make inspirational instruments, but as far as like gauging how much new or exciting things are coming out, it's not something that I really think about that much, because I mostly play the instruments I already have. Every once in a while something comes that's really exciting to me and I get it and might swap it out for something else in my system, but my system has basically stayed the same size for like 8 years now. I've been in a four row system that I occasionally change things out in, and that's about it. I don't really try to keep up with everything that's going on. You know, I mean, I do pay attention to what other companies are making and check them out and stuff, but it's not, I don't know. I'm not looking for, I'm not hoping there's another new excitement every single week, because there's just so much to do with what already exists that I don't think it doesn't really matter to me if there's that much more.
And it happens to me the same, and it's even for me.
I guess.
Even for me that
is that a cop-out answer? I don't know.
No, but even for me that I've been following as a kind of a news reporter. You know, every single week I need to like to share some insights on some of the new stuff coming up, and then these news hit like the this company Cherry Audio that were announcing that they have like the 1,000 model units on their BST kind of environment. So you can actually have like 1,000 models and don't be like super into modular. It's not about the numbers. I think it's not about I think it's more about how do you approach to your instrument. I think that's the main idea for me. And that's something I usually suggest. Like even with the most basic modular stuff, you can get pretty, like as you mentioned before, off the wall. Like you can inspire yourself and inspire others, and that's amazing. This question is like a kind of how do you call it, like low ball. It's like, because they say like, are you playing a new oscillator?
Are we planning a new oscillator?
Are you playing a new oscillator, like a wave folder or something like that? Oscillator model? Are you planning something? I'm only making these questions if maybe you can.
I can't answer questions like that.
But I know
we're planning on something.
That's nice.
Yeah, I can't. Stay tuned. We'll announce something at some point, and it'll be cool. But I can't tell you what it would be.
That's Martin says thank you guys, and everybody's like asking for that kind of questions. But thank you so much, Walker, for your time. I took like 30 minutes more than the plan, but Thank you for.
Oh, that was great. Good. Yeah, thank you for having me, Leo. It's always a pleasure, and we loved your video on our channel, and we look forward to the next one.
Hopefully we'll talk more about this relationship that we were discussing before about like the language and the models that everybody wants to know more about that.
I want to before we sign off. That reminds me that I meant to say I don't think I'd ever thought specifically about and because I'm a native English speaker and basically everything on synthesizers is written in English, no matter where they come from in the world. I've always had the privilege of not having to think about that element of it. We had always aimed for wanting to not have to read while you're playing the synth, you know. But it never occurred to me that like not having to read also means not having to read a foreign language while you're playing with your synth. So that was a really cool angle in your video that I hadn't thought of, about how this sort of like extra outside of language legending on the shared system and whatever else is helpful to you and to other musicians. So that was cool. Thanks for giving me that insight.
Yeah, like we were discussing these guys, like even if you didn't catch the video, that sometimes for the non-native English speakers, you ended up not actually understanding what's a pitch or what's the decay means, and you have to like memorize it. But then when you see symbols like the ones on the make noise hieroglyphs and all the usually people say like, why it's like so crazy these graphics on the make noise models, and for me it was like pretty easy to follow. I don't know if I shared this with you, Walker, but I think I shared with Tony before, like actually I ended up getting into the modeler with the Buchla system, because Buchla decided to go with colors from the inputs to the outputs, and the bananas. Okay. And the bananas were specifically to run around CVs. And for me, as a non-native English speaker, it was way easier to see, okay, red to orange, blue to black. Then you already know it. And even if you didn't understand really well the basic stuff, and it's a crazy idea to start with the Buchla thing, but for me,
I know that's pretty unusual. I don't think most people start with that. But still, that's a great point. Those colored those jacks that are color coded for what type of signal it is. That's something you can't really do with mini jacks very easily. But that's a great point on the Buchla. That helps me with the Buchla too, especially the 200E. I never have any idea what I'm doing with those things. So those color coded jacks are very helpful.
Yeah. So ended up saying like, okay, it was way easier for me to realizing what's the workflow and the signal path. And one thing that it's pretty hard to get when you're starting to model is the signal path. And ended up like learning more, even with the banana cables was way easier for me. Mm-hmm. So totally makes sense for that's a nice question to end it up like Walker. Sorry for this, but this is they want
that's
to.
Great.
They want
I'm
to.
Glad there are more questions.
They want you to share your personal musical projects. You're releasing an album.
Well, I have a Bandcamp that's just my name, .bandcamp.com, walkerfarrell.bandcamp.com. The latest thing that I've put up on there last year, I did put up an album. It's called Walker's Acousmatic Variety Hour. Perfect. It's kind of a whole bunch of pieces, mostly modular stuff. Some field recording stuff, and a little bit of like computer music in there, but it's kind of just a variety of a bunch of different stuff that I'd done over the previous couple of years. And then I also have one on there that I recently put out called Live from Home, which is actually just the direct recordings of a bunch of different performances I did for live streams during the pandemic. And I've priced that at $1 per track, and I've been continually adding to it. So there were 4 tracks to begin with, and now there are 6. But I mean, the tracks are very long. They're like, I mean, they're made to be a whole concert basically. So that 6 tracks is like, I don't know, 2.5 hours or something like that. So yeah. Yeah, I would, if anybody is interested in hearing my music, either of those I would love for you to go check those out. I would be honored to have people listen to those.
I already posted on the chat here, so you can go to the chat on YouTube and Facebook and check it out, like the Bandcamp. There's like the Bandcamp live from home, and also the regular link here. Sorry, cool. I think I interrupt you.
That's it. You asked if I was putting out a new album or something. I mean, I'm always working on music, but I don't know. I don't have a recording project in mind, or at least announced at this point right now. So we'll see.
Hopefully, as soon as you have something, share with us, and we can share it with the community. Thank you so much, Walker.
Awesome.
It was such a honor to feature you here in the Pregúntale a Walker, and maybe in the next one we can do it in Spanish. How's your Spanish? Do you?
I think it would have to go over by a lot longer than 20 minutes this time. It'd be like 5 hours of me sort of poking around. I don't know. At one time, my Spanish was decent, but that was a long time ago. I haven't. It's rusty. Very, very, very rusty. I'd embarrass myself. Let's put it that way.
Have you been in Mexico?
I've been to Mexico 3 times, I think. Once for about a month, which was when I was still in college. I was doing an outdoors program, actually, like canoeing and hiking and stuff like that. And there was also some geology studies, water table studies in the Sonoran Desert, and border studies stuff at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Nice.
But that was like 17 years ago. And that's like my main time that I was in Mexico. I also hung out in the Yucatan for around Christmas time with my family. One time we stayed in Merida.
Mm-hmm.
I think was the name of the city.
Yes.
And we just kind of we kind of drove around and just checked out a whole bunch of towns in that area, and just hung out. But that too. I mean, that was probably at least 10 years ago now. So I'm rusty. Let's put it that
way. We're gonna invite you for the next Mexico, the festival that we do every single year without pandemics. We host a festival that it's like for all the synthesizer lovers here in Mexico City. So you're more than welcome to be part of the attendees the next time. I don't know.
That sounds awesome. I'm very, very, very looking forward to getting to travel again for stuff like that. So I'll cross my fingers that we can make that happen.
Hopefully maybe in January, or maybe February, or maybe I don't know where. Thank you again, Walker. Thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for being here. We're gonna see you on the next week. Nos vemos la siguiente semana. Please, Walker, wait a little bit, and meanwhile, I'm gonna talk with the guys a little bit. Muchísimas gracias a todos los que se conectaron el día de hoy. Muchísimas gracias por celebrar conmigo el primer aniversario de Pregúntale a Leo. Y nos vemos la próxima semana. Tenemos más invitados. Vamos a empezar ya un programa bilingüe. Y esta sección también se va a volver también importante en el otro canal que tengo, que es el Since with Leo en inglés. Así que muchísimas gracias a todos por aguantar mi inglés extraño. Y pues muchísimas gracias a Walker por estar por acá. Y nos vemos la próxima semana. Que tengan excelente noche y nos vemos a la próxima. Déjenme, les pongo un poco de musiquita aquí mientras nos despedimos. A ver, ahí está, música. Y ahora sí, nos vemos. Bye, bye.